follow the classical sequence of Ashtanga Yoga as it is in the second pada of the sutras. We have the yamas, the niyamas, then you have asana, then you have pranayama, then you have dharana, concentration. I mean, in today's, there's no restorative yoga in there, but what I would say is that asana as we know it, like strength building work, is then really nicely followed by restorative yoga, which allows the muscles to rest. And in a more restored place, I think people are more receptive to pranayama. It's really hard for people to focus on their breath when their mind is doing a million other things at the same time. So get them to relax. And sometimes you can help guide them into that relaxation. A lot of people, when left in silence into their own devices, you know, the brain will go a little crazy on you. So just a second. So like you can help people, guide them into the relaxation by cueing different parts, you know, and soften the skin on your temples, relax the jaw, you know, sense this, feel this, can you receive, you know what I'm saying? Like, so guided relaxation is really helpful. And then pranayama, there's space for that.
I was just wondering, kind of following up on your question too. So Shavasana being the last pose, generally speaking, I just started trying out a different studio recently, and I found it interesting that they always do pranayama after Shavasana. And part of me, I don't know if I really like that, because I kind of like the feeling of just finishing class at Shavasana, and you don't really want to do crap after that. So is there, like, would that still fall under the, you know, asana and then pranayama? So technically that would still be the way to go about it.
Yeah, classically, classically, Shavasana should be held for more than 20 minutes. Because the first 19 minutes is not Shavasana. Shavasana starts on the 20th minute. Meaning, like, what we all perceive to be a relaxing Shavasana is not really relaxing, if we just come right down to it. So Shavasana is held for a really long period of time. Now, we don't usually have the luxury of that kind of time when we're teaching a group class. I mean, I always recommend to my trainees, like, at least 10 minutes. I mean, that 10 minutes, or at least 5 minutes. 10 minutes would be amazing. Anything beyond 10 minutes is, like, just crazy amazing. But people's attention spans are short, so people start twitching after about, like, 8 minutes, like, once it's going to be over. So it's a learned response, you know, like a palate for a fine wine. It's like a learned thing, okay? Technically, in that Shavasana, the body temperature is cooling, the mind is settling, and that makes you right for pranayama. Now, a lot of studios do the reverse. They do pranayama, and then they do Shavasana, and that closes the class. But I think that's probably more in response to, like, the culture of people who are coming in the door.
Does it depend also what kind of pranayama? Like, could Kapalabhati be more sympathetic? Or
Kapalabhati is not pranayama. Kapalabhati is a kriya, which means a cleansing technique found in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. And it's confused with pranayama because you're using your breath to cleanse, but it's actually a very active cleansing technique. So that's usually done at the beginning of the class. Okay, so we did restorative yoga, we did pranayama, and one of my favorites is something called japa. And you spell, that's a Sanskrit word for repetition. And you spell that J-A-P-A, japa. Japa, J-A-P-A. There are many things in the yoga tradition that are naturally repetitive. For example, watching your breath is a naturally repetitive activity because there's always an inhale that follows each exhale, and an exhale that follows each inhale, so long as we are alive. So that repetitive action is actually really the first form of dharana, or concentration. Okay, there are other things we do in yoga that are also repetitive, like chanting. When you chant a mantra, you can repeat the mantra, and that sort of brings you into this more meditative state and can elicit a parasympathetic response. You know, Jody loves to chant, so I'm sure you guys are chanting. You chanting before your class? Okay, and then another thing that we see in yoga are the mala beads. You know, people now fashionably wear them around their wrist or whatever, but they've got the little tassel on the end. And there's 100, I was just looking to see if I see, there's 108 beads, so you start the tassel, and you can either, it's all about repetition, and you're using the beads to count how many times you're repeating. So maybe you're just like focusing on your breath. So you close your eyes, and you run your finger over the bead, and you like inhale, exhale. And you run your finger over the next bead, and then over the next bead. And you could repeat a mantra to yourself, and just repeat it 108 times. And actually the Catholic religion borrowed the mala to use for the rosary. So that's actually something that was borrowed from
108.
108.
Why?
It comes from a divine origin of 3, I believe. I don't know if anyone else can speak to that. It's been a while since I studied it.
I think that relates to Buddhism, which also has the 108 defilements.
Buddhism comes from Hinduism, so I don't. So I'm going to trace it even further back. Let's trace it.
Okay.
Does
We're
anybody know?
trying to figure that out. I think there's a mantra even in Jainism and Hinduism that's like, it's a divine number.
It's a divine number.
Yeah,
Is
and
it
it's
3?
always sung 108 times.
It's not even a mantra, so you can repeat Surya Namaskar 108 times and that would be okay.
No, we were just saying, like in Hinduism,
number.
there's other mantras that they also chant 108 times, but we don't know why.
We're trying to figure out. Well, let's Google it tonight because I know it's really simple. It's on the tip of my tongue. I just forgot why the number is so significant. It's like a mystical significance. It doesn't really matter what you're doing. It's the number of times that
It's
you're doing. Okay.
It's not about mantras.
Exactly. Well, but it's an example of, okay? So the mala is another example, right? So it's again, keeping your attention on one thing. Ekagrata, one pointed focus. Now, what I love is that there are many things that you can do in life that are by nature repetitive and relaxing that don't involve yoga at all. One of my personal favorites is knitting. Like, it just like really brings me in, it relaxes me. Other things that I find really relaxing, which maybe other people don't find relaxing, I like ironing. I love ironing. There are a lot of household, there are a lot of household activities, like washing dishes, or stirring soup. Anything that you're doing repetitively with the intention of letting everything else go is considered japa. Now, let me give you something that really counts. There was a study done at Harvard years ago where they coined the term the relaxation response. And in this study, they gave patients who were experiencing pain a repetitive task to do. So some people were chanting a mantra, some people were chanting the rosary, and they then measured their perception of pain after having repeated their task. And they noticed that the pain levels actually went down. The perception of pain levels went down. And that they elicited a parasympathetic nervous system response, which they coined the relaxation response. So there is medical study that supports this idea of japa, which is so intrinsically found in the yoga tradition, but can also be found in other ways. Okay? Do you guys have any activities that you like to do that would be considered japa?
Gardening, like picking that, like harvesting.
Okay, beautiful. Petting my dog.
Flossing.
Flossing? Excellent. Yeah. Like I said, one person's trash is another man's treasure. But the idea is that there are ways in which to bring about a more relaxing response, the rest and digest response, that don't just involve restorative yoga and pranayama. It's the quality of the attention that you're looking for. Okay? And what's beautiful about the relaxation response is you can actually, while you're doing it, be thinking to yourself, this is totally not working, I'm still feeling totally stressed out. And regardless of how well you think you're doing, the response is still happening, which is so beautiful to know that you don't have to do it right. It's the commitment to try and let everything else go, which is what elicits the response. Okay? So I encourage you as you start to teach yoga that you include at least one restorative pose in your class. And you make sure that you give your students a shavasana that actually allows them to rest. Because you know what? It's beautiful to teach yoga and work on strengthening muscles and increasing mobility in the joints and keeping the physical body healthy. But I think we would be remiss as yoga teachers to not capitalize on an opportunity to help our students relax and find healing on a much deeper level.
What is the difference between restorative and yoga nidra, if I'm saying it right?
Yoga nidra is another form of relaxation, sort of like guided relaxation. It's like the yoga sleep. And it's usually done.
Restorative, it's different.
It's restorative to the nervous system, but not to be confused with restorative yoga, which is actually using shapes, using asana, but propping them significantly and holding them for a long period of time. It has a very similar effect, but using different modalities together. Any thoughts on this, you guys?